Howdy, and welcome back to the Ineligibles podcast. My name is Will Stone at Will Stone CFB on Twitter, at Ineligible Pod on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. Come check us out. Give us a subscribe. Today, very special guest. For the first time in the history of this show, we have someone from behind the orange curtain, and he's here to talk about the Texas Longhorns, Mr. Ghost of Texas football, aka Cord Samuels. Cord, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, sir. Will, thanks a lot for having me. Obviously, we've talked a little about this over the last couple weeks to a month, and opportunity kind of popped up a little earlier than we expected, man. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've wanted to get obviously someone from the other side on the show. Obviously, with it's been so much recruiting and internet smack talk. Now we actually get the game back on the field, which is super exciting. But as far as Texas fans go, and Texas, I guess you're officially a member of the media now. You have your own show. So as far as Texas media goes, I think you're one of the brighter and more level-headed ones out there, and happy to have you on and talk ball. But um, also, side note, I think it's cool. Like we're kind of kindred spirits. You're from Wortham, Freestone County. I'm from neighboring Groesbeck, Limestone County. The best athlete out of your high school was a Texas legend in Leonard Davis. Best athlete out of my high school was Texas legend Kenneth Sims, another big guy, on the defensive line. So yeah, it's pretty cool that we made that connection.
Absolutely, definitely something that was unique when I realized that the first couple of times we talked, I was like, I know this name, because the small area that we're from. Everybody knows everybody, and I lived in
Yeah,
the head for a little bit of time as well. So we were kind of rivals for just a couple of years there. Well, I guess we've always been rivals, but in a different
yeah,
way. But
yeah,
yeah, it's a cool connection. Anyone watching from back home, shout out to the Groesbeck Goats, the Head Blackcats, Teague Lions, Fairfield Eagles, Wortham Bulldogs, all of Freestone, Limestone County.
yeah.
Guess I got to throw
The
Coolidge in there.
I'm about to say, yeah, the Coolidge Hornets, I think, or Yellow
Yellow
Jackets, one of the
Jackets.
two. Yeah, there we
Yes,
go.
sir. Yes, sir. So
Yeah,
very cool. But I do appreciate the kind words in regards to what you said about my account, and just I I am not affiliated with the University of Texas in any way, but I do love to talk Texas football and talk all of college football, and I'm happy to get into this world. I'm happy to have you on my channel. I talk a lot about the Aggies. The Aggies are very important in our realm. What y'all do has an immediate and direct effect on us, and anyone saying anything else is just you're just being a little silly. So I
yeah,
appreciate the kind words, sir. Thank you again.
yeah. Of course. So I think you had a tweet a while back about meeting. Is it Leonard Davis that you met that came by and he was like, oh, like he was rumored to go to A&M and he's like, no, nah, I mean I'm going to Texas.
That is really, I thank you very much for the opportunity to tell this story. One of my favorites, man. You'll realize quickly I'm a little bit long winded, so hang in there with me. But
All good.
so I bounced around from Teague, Wortham, and Mejia as a youngster. And when I got settled in Wortham, I believe I was in second grade. And then Leonard was class of 97. And so when I was in third grade, he was a senior. And the Wortham basketball team or football team went really deep as far as any Wortham football team has gone. And then the basketball team went state. So naturally, we looked up to those guys as kind of heroes and idols. We were like, man, that can be us one day, because you got a town of 1,000 people, 30, 40 kids a grade. And you're playing in Austin and Frank Irwin Center, and you're lifting the trophy. It was a cool scene for the town. And
Yeah,
so came, kind of enamored with Leonard Davis and a couple of other guys, Lance Chambers, RIP, young man went to play college basketball and passed away shortly after getting to campus in Waco.
mm,
They had tremendous athletes over there during that time period in Wortham. And anyways, my dad was such a big college football fan, Longhorn. I was always in it from the jump. And my youth group was going to Baylor games when I was small. Just west of us. Waco's a short trip, and so we go check out the Bears for. I think you take a can of Dr Pepper, and they let you in there, and watch them get drug around a little bit. But it was college football, and so I was immediately fixated with the sport. I loved everything about it. And quickly, people are talking about Leonard Davis going to play football at either Texas or Texas A&M. And I'm like, wow, this is a really cool thing. I'm in third grade, and I'm worried about where this 18-year-old's, where he's going to go to school. I was definitely not some of the conversation I was having with classmates. No one else cared. He chooses A&M, and I come home from school, I don't know, a couple of weeks later, and he was my neighbor. And him and my stepdad are sitting in the front or in the living room. And I walk in, and Leonard says hello, and I walk right past him. I say nothing. And my stepdad comes back there, and he's like, "Man, what's the issue? Like, why did you just ghost Leonard Davis?" And I was like, hey, he's committed to Texas A&M. There's a line drawn now. Appreciate what you did here, but I obviously have no clue what I said, but that's how I felt. And so fast forward in time, Leonard flips to Texas, and project graduation, and at least in our area, held the night of graduation. Keep all the seniors in if you can, and he's committed to Texas at this point. And I don't know, I think one of my parents was chaperoning or doing something, but I was at project graduation. And Leonard walked up to me, and he had a shirt, and it said, "My favorite two teams are Texas and whoever plays Texas A&M." And he had signed it for me and gave it to me. I still have it now. My 4-year-old son occasionally wears it because he cries if I don't let him. So he'll wear it to bed on occasion. But so since then, Leonard being a neighbor at the time, obviously he went off and did great things with Texas, and then Arizona, Dallas. He moved around, but it was really cool for that town because every time he came home, everyone knew about it. Everybody's like, "Oh, Big Leonard's in town," and it's hard to
Yeah.
miss a guy that's like 6'7", 360. You don't miss guys like that. And
Yeah, for
so
sure.
definitely that was a cool connection. Thanks for the chance to tell that story. Definitely kind of funny now that I think about it. I was kind of a jerk as a third grader, but it all worked out for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember like when I was in high school, there were a few of my teachers had been around like when Leonard was coming up through Wortham. And I remember like, there's one of them that told me they were like because I had no idea he played basketball. I like barely knew that he was even from Wortham. I just knew he played at Texas and played for the Cowboys. But they were like on the basketball court, he was so much bigger than the other kids. Like everyone was scared he would hurt somebody, just and not even on purpose. He's just a big human being, and just a freak athlete, and obviously did great things in college and in the NFL as well.
The best basketball story about the guy was, and so when I was, in high school in the mid 2000s, we're still referring to the gym that was opened in '94 as the new gym. But back in the day when it was a new gym in 1994, Leonard was eighth grader, a freshman, and they said that he went up with a two-hand dunk. The first time that anyone dunked it in the new gym, shattered the backboard, and they're looking around like, serious. I mean, it's not like our school has a ton of money out there to just go throw around. So
Right.
that was a cool story. Definitely imposing on the basketball court. That team played insane defense. Think about that man on the interior, just
Yeah.
funneling 1A high school kids to that guy. Pretty
Yeah.
unfair.
Yeah. For sure. Um, so the Texas Longhorns, you guys are coming into the SEC. Obviously, huge year last year. Make the playoff, win the Big 12. Go out in style in the Big 12. Um, how are the vibes right now? Because I know there was obviously a terrific year in the NFL draft with the guys from last year's team. First rounders, second rounders. Like there was it was probably the best year Texas has had in a long time in terms of the draft. But they recruit at a very high level. They've got some kids in the portal. But I guess just kind of overall, like how are Longhorn fans feeling going into 2024?
Um, I think it depends on where you're at. If you hop on Twitter, there's a lot of people that are guaranteeing 10 and 11 wins. And for myself, I spend a lot of time there, and that's kind of where I built my following. And so I'm not going to say that I am going to guarantee a 10 or 11 win season, but the vibes are really high. There's a lot of confidence, and with the latest injury news to the running backs, I still think there's a very high confidence. I think that there might be a touch more skepticism on how it looks and how it gets done, but I'm not sure if people are wanting to pivot off the win totals that they might have been set on before the injuries. Overall, the vibes are high. I mean, you talked about all the talent we lost, and we're going to miss the heck out of those guys, especially Sweat and Murphy on the interior D line. You're talking about going into the SEC in year one, losing two big dogs right there on the interior, and so we have the bodies there, but they don't have the accolades that those two gentlemen have. They don't have the game reps, the experience, but they are mountain of men. They're some big guys, and they're at the University of Texas for a reason. And our development since Steve Sarkisian has been around has been pretty top notch. And so that's an area where I think we'll probably be a little better than we're expected to be. I'm really hoping I don't eat those words later in the season, but there are some concerns. Defensive line, obviously the injuries at running back, but the vibes are high. Those I'm happy to address those and how I feel about them. But overall, I think from the entire fan base's standpoint, I think that's overall would be the concerns. But they're still expecting to go win 10 or 11 games.
Yeah, I think the win total's at 10.5, which is that's probably a pretty good number. You could kind of go in either direction. And with a tough but a pretty manageable schedule. First game is or first I guess first big game is on the road at Michigan, the defending champs. They lost quite a bit. Still will be pretty salty on defense. It looks like. I haven't done a ton of looking into Michigan. Um, but is that viewed as a like a pretty big toss up? Are you leaning one way or the other? I think you're going to be at that game. Is that right?
Um, I, right now it's not looking like I will be there, and so that's first time I think I've said that out loud. It hurts a little bit,
Yeah,
just with everything and the little ones. It's looking tough.
yeah,
But overall, I'm not as confident about that game as I feel like the big part of our fan base is. The overall bit is they're going to be really aggressive on defense. It's at the big house. We're going to have to run the ball, be physical in the run game to win this game, and that's where losing Baxter and for me kind of hurts a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying we'll be lucky to win that game. I don't expect to go into Michigan and walk over them. Absolutely not. I
yeah,
think they get Sherman Moore is a good coach and they'll be prepared. But at the same time, you give Steve Sarkisian, half a year to prepare for a certain style of defense. He's going to find points. And so Michigan with a first-year quarterback and us having a pretty talented back end on defense. I love where we're at in the secondary and at linebackers. I love where we're at on the edges. It's really, really neat to see the edge room we have because we have 4 or 5 bodies who could go out there and play. And to see any of them succeed and, almost demand more snaps wouldn't be surprising to me. But I think we'll make it pretty hard on Michigan's quarterback. And so looking at Steve Sarkisian having all that time to prepare, Quinn Ewers, the talent that we're going to have at wide receiver, Jaden Blue's going to be a stud. A lot of people in Austin thought he was going to be RB1 by the end of the year anyways. I'm not trying to put any type of disrespect on CJ Baxter's name. That's not my intent right there. I'm just saying that I have seen those tweets. I have seen those opinions out there.
yeah.
But I do expect to win that game. I don't know how it looks. I don't know if toss up is fair. I think the last time I saw a spread was around 5. I think that's pretty fair. By 1 or 30, I don't care, man. We have to win that game.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think it's that's we got 3 or 4 essentially. Like it's like we're playing like World Cup qualifiers. We got 3 or 4 of those, and we're looking Michigan, Georgia, Oklahoma, and A&M. In my opinion,
Yeah.
so we'll get to those, but in my opinion, like that's a big one for us to reach our, obviously our season's goals.
Yeah. So I think that's fair, especially with not just the player turnover but the coaching turnover as well. They do have Sharon Moore, from OC to head coach, but Harbaugh's gone. The defensive coordinator went with them. A couple other guys. I'm sure they'll still be a well-coached football team.
So,
I don't, the quarterback. I'm interested to see how he plays against Texas because, hasn't done much throwing the football in his time at Michigan. So, lost a lot of good receivers. They have a great tight end, it seems, and obviously great running back with Donovan Edwards. But super intriguing game in week 2 of this season. You talked about the back end of the defense. I think that's where some people like myself that are not, in the weeds in the Texas program think might be kind of vulnerable. So I guess talk about some of the guys on the back end that you feel pretty confident in.
I think what you said, it's fully justified. We have given up a lot of big plays over the last couple of seasons under Steve Sarkisian and Coach PK. It's been a nuisance at times. You go back to the Washington game last year in the Sugar Bowl, and I think one of their first, second, third offensive snap, you're gone 70 yards down the sideline on a play that probably should have went for about 20 and 25 tops. which has been a bit of a reoccurring theme. You look at the Bama game last year. Bama had their 2 touchdowns on 2 big blown plays. Otherwise, we pretty much controlled them and could have blasted them by a lot more than 10, to be honest with you. And so, yeah, just little things. I mean, little moves. So Jade Barron goes from nickel to corner, which is Jade's probably the highest of the draft grades that we're going to have in the secondary. Jade's a monster, and we are lucky that he came back for another year. You're going to have Malik Muhammad at the other corner. Malik's, I mean, high 4-star list. I mean, there were varying opinions in the services, but he's going to be a player. Andrew Makuba comes in from Clemson to play safety. And then you already have Derek Williams, who last year as a freshman played pretty dang well. And so there were mistakes at times that comes with freshmen. He was part of that, secondary that did give up some big plays, as was Jade Barron at times, but he was really rock solid at nickel. And so we have high expectations for him at corner. And so, yeah, man, you still got to tie it all together, and you still got to go in there, even though you have all these stars and talent. We've seen that with Texas before, and we've had stars and talent there for the last few years and still gave up a lot of points and a lot of big plays in the passing game. So you still got to go do it, man. But I feel really good there. I feel really good about our safeties coming up in the run game, similar to your safeties at A&M. Very physical and not going to be afraid to come help in the run support. Same thing goes at corners with Jade Barron and then Manny Muhammad. And so, and then with Davey Bimba and Anthony Hill, I mean, I like where we're at starting linebacker as well. Both guys cover well. And so overall pass defense, I do expect to be, pretty vastly improved. At least I'm really, really hoping so, Will.
Yeah, I think we are too. Because our secondary, if it was as bad or worse than y'all's, I mean, it was not great a season ago. So A&M went and got 7 or 8 guys in the portal on the back end, along with some young guys that are coming up in the program. So we have high hopes that we'll be better back there. And
yeah.
sorry, yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
one thing that will really help both of us is that I mentioned that I think that we'll take a big step up in edge play, getting to the pass rusher, as far as just containing run game, stringing things out. You guys are loaded with Nick Gordon and Shamar. I mean, that's salty. And so as long as you have some depth, because you're going to have some depth in the SEC, which obviously this, I've been around for a long time. Both of those edge groups, they should help our secondary. I mean,
Yeah.
we're hoping so at least, right? And
Yeah.
so time will tell, though.
Yeah, yeah. I think PK, he's a pretty good defensive mind. Obviously, we're super thrilled to have Elko back. Took our defense from the dumpster at the end of the Sumlin era and turned it around. In year one, and had some good units here. So
Absolutely.
we're very excited for that. On offense, I've got kind of just something I've noticed in, like, I've tried to go back and watch a little bit of Texas from last year, and look at some advanced numbers as well. But it seemed like, and I hope I'm not sounding like I'm a Quinn Ewers hater. I thought he actually seemed pretty likable at media days in Dallas last month. So I've got nothing against him as a person, obviously. But
you're good. I promise you're good, man. Don't worry about
yeah,
how you come off. You're good.
but it just seemed like there was a couple of times here and there where, I don't know if it was him or just maybe like the play calling, or just kind of, like every now and then it would kind of get into a lull, and you could just hand the ball to Jonathan Brooks or CJ Baxter, and they're breaking through, against Kansas and Texas Tech and like all like so many other like other teams and good teams too. Um, I think with the injuries at that spot, unfortunately, and Blue's a pretty solid player. Is that any kind of concern? I mean, I'm sure like the depth behind Blue is a concern, but just in terms of like, are we going to be able to run as successfully, with some against some bigger bodies in the SEC?
Great question. Absolutely justified. I think that's a big time concern as far as, as you're saying, we got up big time against Kansas State, TCU, Houston, obviously those teams kind of made games of it, but Oklahoma State, and then you're able to turn around and hand the ball off. And, that takes a big load off your defense, takes a load off your receivers and your quarterback. Your wide receivers aren't running routes nonstop, and with the short rotation we've had under Steve Sarkisian at wide receiver the last couple of years, those little things all do matter a good deal. And so CJ Baxter was going to be that guy. He was going to be the hammer to the Blues Lightning, and it was going to be, in my opinion, a terrific pairing. I thought it was going to be about as good as we saw in all of college football, to be honest with you. I've mentioned before on my channel that I'm really curious to see what it looks like, our offense, down and distance wise, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, times where it's like, hey, we could turn and hand it to JB right here. He might not get the first down, but if he doesn't, I mean, he might be a half foot. We know, that part. That's where you trust scheme and everything. But I don't know if it's going to be that physical, like hard nose run you over. And I'm not sliding Jaden Blue. Like he's a tough cat, but he's not the biggest guy. And so Jonathan Brooks was a guy that could put his shoulder down and run through you. Cedric Baxter could run through you. Bijan could run through you. Roshan could run right through you. And so those are guys in the last couple of years under Sark that we could turn around, and those hard yards weren't so hard for them. And so I am curious, man. There were lulls in our offense in the Kansas State game, the TCU game, the Houston game, which Quinn went down in that one. We started off the Oklahoma game in a lull. It took us forever to get on the board there, a couple turnovers. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how it will look. You have a new cast of wide receivers. You're going to have Jaden Blue, and then you're going to have to rely a lot on Trey Wisner and even Jarrett Gibson's son. Christian Clark, the freshman that went down, I was really, really high on him. I had said literally the night before he went down that I thought by mid to late season he would be a big time contributor for that offense. He has amazing one cut ability. But so yeah, you're talking about a bunch of transfers. They're very, very speedy at wide receiver, and those type of guys, and knowing Sark's scheme and how he likes to do things, there will be big plays and times where it kind of looks like a video game for the guy. And I'm not saying this every week in and week out of the SEC. I'm just saying there will be particular times because he's that good scheme wise. And then we do have a lot of burners at wide receiver, but it's not going to be the same offense as it was last year. AD could rattle off big plays, but was great possession receiver. X could do a little bit of everything. And we're going to have to wait to see in the wide receiver room who steps up and, who's the guy. Do we have a guy? Do we just have 4 really good ones? So I am curious to see what it looks like. But back to the original question, I'm really, really, curious to see in particular what it looks like 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, 3rd and 4. The situations where Texas would run inside zone or they'd run duo and they would chew you up. Do you do that now with Jaden Blue? Because you're talking about wearing down a guy. You got to play Michigan. How many times are we giving them the ball here? You're talking 15, 20, 22, 23 touches. You can't go do that to the guy, the full SEC slate of the schedule. And so I am curious, man, but they're, like you said, they've reloaded. There's a lot of talent there, and Sarkisian's an offensive guy. And so there's a lot of trust from our end that he gets things done.
Yeah, it's just it's taking a new set of players and finding out like what they do best and how they can and what plays you can call to use those parts to score points. So I'm sure it's it may not be as explosive as a year ago, but I'd be shocked if Texas had a bad offense. I don't expect that ever out of a Sarkisian team.
I mean, he had Hudson Card, Casey Thompson, the 2021 first half Texas offense. I mean, we lit teams up, and we did have Bijan, but we had an O line that wasn't great at the time, and so yeah, we trust Sark. Go ahead, sir.
I was kind of surprised at how good Jonathan Brooks was, because like obviously Bijan was 5-star prospect, tremendous athlete and football player, 1st-round pick. And then Jonathan Brooks, I don't remember his exact rating, but he was kind of, like 3-star, 4-star kind of borderline type of guy from a small school and not an overly big guy. But man, he was a tough runner last year. Like even if it wasn't blocked perfectly, he could still break some tackles or make a guy miss and pick up those tough yards. But and Blue, like he's got the breakaway kind of like ability. And maybe not the tough running, but you've got I wish that A&M could have landed Trey Wisner or Trey Wisner. Big fan of his, and obviously we're a little bit light at running back right now. Um, but as
I will
far,
say, go ahead. I will say
yeah,
real
no,
quick.
go ahead.
Jaden Blue's a smaller back, but just to show you his mindset, if you go back into the Washington game, I believe it's the end of the first half. We're down 21-14. We tie it up at 21 right before half, and with Jaden Blue up the middle, I want to say 7 or 8 yards, and just watch the way he runs into the safety and what he was. The safety wasn't about to meet him. He half met him, but just
Yeah,
you can tell some guys have that mentality, and so
yeah,
I need JB to be safe and clean and and be smart when he does it. But I definitely think he's willing to go in there and pick up those dirty yards, and he has put on a little bit of size. But
yeah.
there you go.
So there's a lot of bodies at receiver, and what seems like a lot of like pretty high quality players. Is there a thought of who starts or gets the most of the reps in that room?
Um, I think that naturally the first person that people would say would be Isaiah Bond, because he did some big things at Bama. He had seemed to have some really clutch gene there at Alabama. He did the things in the moment. Now obviously he didn't sit there and pile up the craziest receiving yard totals, and what was he, high 600s, low seven
Something like
hundreds
that.
maybe. Okay, but and then you're talking about Silas Bolden, same type of situation. Had a huge, yards per reception. Really quick, small. I mean, trying to stay in front of that guy would be really difficult. But you go to Matthew Golden, and Matthew was on an offense with probably threw the ball a little bit better there with Donovan Smith at U of H, which I know he wasn't the only guy that played over the season for them, but it's hard to say, man, because then you had these glowing reports about five-star freshman out of the state of Missouri, Ryan Wingo, and the way people talk about Ryan Wingo, it's like that he's game ready and that he will contribute, pretty immediately, and so it's hard to say. That's going back to, I don't know how it all looks, but there's enough names and enough talent, and then you take a mind like Coach Sarks, who he can scheme you up really quickly, and that's what he's done, and he's been around some great minds, and obviously playing the quarterback position himself. I don't really know, but I'd say that the first name Texas fans would throw out would be Isaiah Bond.
Yeah, yeah. He's obviously he's super talented. I think he was just had just fewer yards than Jermaine Burton did for Bama last year. And Burton's a guy that absolutely carved us up, in
Yeah,
that
he
game.
did. He,
And Bond had a big play as well. Obviously Bond had the game winner on fourth and forever against Auburn,
Auburn, yeah.
and showed some of that clutch ability. So I think overall I've got a pretty good feel for the roster. Obviously, great O line, and like you said, great depth at edge, great talent at edge. Very your prototypical pass rushing type of guys. So just kind of going as a general feel. First year in the SEC, first year 12 team playoff. The I feel like you guys were kind of the domino, like Texas and Oklahoma, really kicked off this whole Big Two, type of world that we're in now with the SEC and the Big Ten. ACC, Big 12. I think the Big 12 would be a super fun league to watch. I'm actually very excited to watch those games. But when it comes to what the SEC looks like now, and even the Big Ten, it's kind of like English soccer, where it's like all these big names are just playing each other week in and week out. So as a Texas fan, it's got to be pretty exciting to be a part of that now.
Absolutely, man. You're talking about someone that still loves to go to games, really enjoy the game day environments, the fans, every bit of it, tailgates, the bands. I mean, the fireworks shows we have nowadays and the LED lights. Like, I mean, it's all really, really cool. And as big a college football fan as I am, and no disrespect to my fellow brothers in the Big 12, we've all got great rapport on Twitter, not trying to blow that up. But it's a little bit different when your big home game for the year is Oklahoma State or Texas Tech even. No offense to TCU, but I'm not going to give y'all credit because y'all dusted us in all those games. But I'm just gonna say, like, we have Georgia coming to town. We have Florida, we have Kentucky, and like people go, oh, it's Kentucky. Mark Stoops got a good program over there for Kentucky football. He's done a great job. Even Mississippi State coming in, like these are fun programs to play. These environments are going to be awesome. And then you're talking about going to Vietnam. You're talking about going to College Station. Now we do go to Vanderbilt. It'll be a blast, but the
It's fun.
environment's
Yeah,
going
it's
to
a fun
be,
trip.
yeah, environment's going to be top notch, man. And that's definitely, as a fan, it's really, really exciting to think about, hey man, we've had to schedule a monster second week opponent for the last like 10 years. And we just to have like a really cool home game. And you don't even have that every year. It's every other year. And so, to have a Georgia, Florida, obviously you guys will be coming next year. Arkansas will be here next year. Like, it's just so cool for DKR, for Austin, for the fans that miss those rivalry games, because we don't have a true rival that has come to Austin in the last, 11 or 12 years. I guess y'all were last there in 2010. So 14
Yeah.
years since we've had a rival football game played in Austin, as we're going to Dallas and meeting the Sooners. And so, we haven't played Arkansas at home in that time. So, yeah, man, I grin ear to ear when thinking about the comparison between and it's not knocking the Big 12, man. It's just there's something different, obviously, about the SEC and the way they do and care about college football.
Hey, it just means more, right?
Absolutely means more. Yeah. I will say this:
um,
Big 12 Twitter, shout out, y'all are superior to SEC Twitter. I'm gonna need to see more out of SEC Twitter here soon. I know we're on YouTube and other platforms, but
yeah.
Big 12 Twitter, man, there's a funny bunch.
Yeah, I see some of the Oklahoma State guys on there and Texas Tech and all that stuff. And yeah,
Yeah,
there's definitely some good Big 12 Twitter accounts. I can't imagine how they all feel about Colorado right now, but that's a whole different topic. Um,
absolutely.
so and you're like me in this regard. Like we grew up with this game, and honestly, like when I was a kid, I like A&M was my team, but I didn't have this, I didn't have the hate for Texas, but obviously I loved that game, and now going to A&M, I do have that hate for Texas. It's there,
Fish
but
camp
this
strikes again.
no, yeah. So I got so sick of you know the online and Twitter rivalry and recruiting and smack talk over, oh well, we got this high school kid to come play for us and you didn't get him, and it got so old, and it's all pretty lame when you think about it. Now that's all in the past. I mean, we're still going to talk trash about recruiting, but we have an
Of
actual
course.
game now, year in and year out. So, excitement level on the return of the Lone Star Showdown. I like that it's at the end of the year. I think that's its rightful place. And then I guess if you got an opinion on what day of the week that game should be, are you a Thanksgiving Day kind of guy? Or are you more Friday, Saturday?
Um, First off, obviously, really glad that the game is coming back. I agree that I think it's placed perfectly at the end of the year where it belongs. Growing up for us, I'm sure it feels like home. Thanksgiving, Texas and A&M on the weekend. But yeah, that's a good question. I feel like most of my youth, it was always Friday, the morning after, the afternoon after Thanksgiving, and I liked that. But I do like the night games, man. I like the night game setting, and for whatever reason, I feel like they always played it early on that Friday when it was on that Friday. Um,
Mm.
but at the same time, I think it's really, really tough on Thanksgiving to pull it all off because you want to be fair and have all the students, show up for that. Not that y'all are going to have any problem filling Kyle Field. Like, it's going to be packed. For people that are trying to do Thanksgiving and the game, I mean, I think just for me personally, I would prefer that they were able to do so. But as an East Texas guy who's been to Thanksgivings, about an hour from College Station, 2.5 hours from Austin, I don't really care when they do it. I'm going to show up either way because I can have my turkey and football both there on that same day. So, I think ideally, if I have to answer, give me Saturday night, Thanksgiving weekend. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like here's how that Saturday should go. You got the game in the morning, Michigan, Ohio State, Iron
Yeah,
Bowl at 2:30, and then you cap it off with A&M in Texas.
It's a hell of a day of
What more?
college football.
What more could you ask for? But
Right.
and also I think like obviously the NFL has completely commandeered Thanksgiving Day in terms of viewership,
Right.
and I think they have 3 games now, on Thanksgiving Day. So and not that that would matter a ton. Like people are still going to watch A&M in Texas. Like it doesn't matter what day it's on. But if you're going for maximum hype and visibility, I think Saturday is probably the best option. But I guess we'll see what they do. We probably should have had this show tomorrow night because tomorrow our ads are getting together in Houston for some reason, and everyone believes it's to announce a new sponsor of the rivalry game. Have you got any inside knowledge on what this sponsor is, or is it a sponsor announcement?
I know nothing. I know nothing whatsoever about this. I have asked around a little bit, and I was also told that they knew nothing. And so I am curious. As cool as a new sponsor and everything would be, like for me, they made the hoopla about it. I need there to be a new trophy. There's got to be a new trophy. Not saying the new rivalry name, Lonestar Showdown, is fine. If you want to change it, albeit do so. But I know nothing, but I am hoping that there's like a new rivalry or trophy name of, I don't know. Give me something, man. They made a lot of hype about this meeting tomorrow.
I know. It's going to be the Exxon Mobil Lone Star Showdown or something lame like that.
Right, right, right.
I can just feel it. But at least give us a good Texas brand like Bucky's or Specs or HEB. You
That's
know,
just way too. But Bucky's is way too Aggie, man. Y'all can't. We
that's
can't.
true. That's
I don't
true.
think we can do that for y'all. That is. I mean, I live literally like zero point 0.6 miles from a Bucky. I could hit it with the rock, but I mean, I have a hard time walking in there and just handing you guys money because God knows what you're doing with it and how many
I
recruits you're buying
know.
with all this Bucky knowledge.
Yeah, 30 million in 2022. They said.
Right, right, yeah. I wonder if that was sliced bread. If he ever, obviously he had no clue what he was getting into when he typed those words and hit enter that day.
Yeah, and so funny that he had a mod tag, and everyone's like, "Oh, if this moderator said it's got to be, it's got to be true," and they just took it and ran
Oh
with it like
Lord,
wildfire.
$30 million on a
Good
recruiting
times,
class. I'm
good
going to choose to
times.
believe it. Yeah,
I mean, it's on the internet, so it's got to be true.
absolutely.
So we did have a question come through. Let me scroll back and put it up here. As a Texas fan, or through the lens of a Texas fan, what parts of our team seem vulnerable? And I guess, like you mentioned, the defensive ends. Like what part kind of stands out? It's like, oh, that's definitely a strength.
Is this in regards to the Ags or the Horns?
To A&M, yeah.
Okay, just double checking. Great question, Pierce. Appreciate that. So for me, I mean, I've been pretty pro A&M as far as my confidence goes on you guys this year. I think that Connor Wigman's a great player. I like the talent wide receiver. I guess it's Le'Veon Moss and EJ Smith primarily at running back now, or am I missing a name?
I think it's definitely those two, and then Amari Daniels will probably get some
Amari.
run as well.
Yeah, I felt like I was missing a name. Um, I love Coach Klein. I think Coach Klein's going to be great for you guys. Mixing it up in the run pass. He's going to do a lot of different things that Jimbo Fisher never would have done in his wildest dreams, as far as concept wise. Now, with the offensive line, I think that's where a lot of people are in wait and see mode, obviously, myself included. I think Coach Cushing did good things at Duke. I think he's highly sought after and recommended from the way people talked about him. I have done little homework on him for what it's worth. But got to know your enemies at least a little bit here in this college football world. But
Yeah, for sure.
I'm curious about the O line when it comes to your offense. I mean, what does the O line look like? And a couple of the cast I expect good things from Chase DeSantis. I think he's an underrated player. I like a couple of the guys there, but at the same time, you have to have a 5-man unit. You have to be cohesive, and then you have to hold up through the grind of the SEC schedule. It feels weird to say that and like not be laughing at you guys. I'm sorry, it's just I'm not trolling anymore.
Yeah.
But, but so you still have to go hold up, and so offense wise, love the skill positions. I think you're going to do pretty well there. I think running back between the three guys. I know I was missing Amari. I think Amari's a good player. I think you're going to need all three guys to do different things. But the main concern, obviously, a ton of Aggies probably feel the same way as the offensive line. If you go to the flip side and talk about defense, I love the defensive line. I think that Albert Regis is going to be he's being undervalued and underrated a lot right now. Not a lot of people are talking about your interior defensive line. They're all talking
Amen.
about your edges. Um, and then so I think you're going to be better there, and than people are giving you credit for. Now, I do have concerns at depth, both with edge and DT, and so just stay healthy, and that's not as much of a concern. But you do need, 4, 5, 6 bodies. The more the better. There on rotation and defensive tackle. Torian York is probably a first rounder. That kid's a stud. Great instincts. Obviously, covers well. There's a lot of things that Torian York does well, so I think he'll be good at linebacker. Who's starting opposed to Torian?
So we talked about that on Monday. It seems like it's still like a three-man battle right
That's
now.
what I okay. That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. So they brought a guy from Florida, Scooby Williams,
Mm-hmm.
who's very athletic and
Mm-hmm.
is trying to learn to play inside as opposed to on the edge. Damian Sanford is a true sophomore, or either true sophomore or maybe redshirt freshman. He may have played some special teams last year, but I think him and Torium play very well together and kind of complement each other. And then they got a guy from Pitt who's played a lot of football in
Yep.
Solomon DeShields.
Yep.
So he's wasn't here in the spring, so kind of trying to learn the ropes of the defense. And if any of the three tried out there on the opening drive, it wouldn't surprise me either way.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that Elko's a terrific defensive mind. He's a great teacher, and that whoever the best fit and needs to be out there, that's the guy that's going to go out there first. And that doesn't mean the guys that are right behind him aren't ready either. So we'll see on that. But I mean, Mike Elko, I have said very nice things about the man, even though sometimes it can be hard because of the color that he wears. But I think he's fantastic. He's one of the better minds in the defensive minds and all of college football. And his track record backs that up. He was excellent at Notre Dame, excellent at Texas A&M. Um, People kind of talk about him like he's not a recruiter, doesn't really care to recruit. But at the same time, you go look at a lot of that 2021 recruiting class, or what the 22 class. That the number one class in college football history, and a lot of people that talk about why they went there, they're referencing Mike Elko, his teaching and his prowess for putting together great defense. And so the Aggies just gonna have to trust Mike on that. They're gonna figure that other linebacker spot out. Now in the secondary, I know you added Eli Ricks at corner. The name I'm forgetting, the opposite corner, that started the last couple of years. Who am I missing?
Tyreek Chappelle.
Chappelle. Yep. Now, if he can return to some of his former form that he had when Elko was there, I think he can take a big jump back to kind of what he was, because he has suffered a little bit here, or at least last season. But so I like what you got there, and then I think you got a good mix of safety. I think that with Bryce Anderson and then Dalton Brooks, you're gonna that's a lot of athleticism. Crazy amount of athleticism. Bryce is going to come down and bust your butt in the run game. Now we'll see how those two defend in the pass game. I do have some concerns about Bryce Anderson holding up against the higher passing attacks, and I'm not knocking the kid, man. I'm really not. I'm gonna want to see better, but at the same time, your entire pass defense, like you mentioned earlier in the show, it struggled last year, same as ours. I'm hoping for the same thing from our safeties, and gonna just have to see better. And so I love a lot of the pieces you have on defense. I think that overall, you're looking at worst, probably like a top 20 defense. I think y'all can really, really, really be good and dominant at times, in particular because of that defensive line. There's a lot of overturn at quarterback in the SEC, a lot of new quarterbacks on your schedule. I think that y'all can take advantage of. And so, you asked for strengths and concerns. I hope I didn't step on any toes there, but I mean, just giving you my genuine concerns if I were to be an Aggie fan, in which, I know I needed a little help remembering a couple names there, but I
Yeah.
probably know y'all's roster better than I do any other non-Texas school. So,
Yeah, no, you definitely did a great job there. And as far as I think a lot of us are excited to have Elko back, and he's a secondary guy, safeties guy, and like he's the reason that we landed Bryce Anderson in the first place. He's the reason that Tyreek Chappelle got back out of the portal after putting his name in.
mhm.
When there was some coaching turnover, but there's something that popped into my head when you were talking about how it's kind of hard to hate Mike Elko. Honestly, it's kind of hard to hate Sark when I hear him talk, in press conferences and at halftime and stuff like that. Um, it was so much more fun. And you probably feel this way about A&M having Jimbo, but when you guys had Tom Herman, like I hated that guy. It was so easy to hate him, and it's probably so easy for you guys to hate Jimbo. And like, it seems like the media with the guys we have now, like the media is very friendly to both Elko and Sarkeesian. I think.
Absolutely. I think that we'll go with Elko first. I've had the luxury of meeting coach's son, and you can tell really quick. Sometimes when you meet somebody that they came from a really good place, and so I kind of look at Elko as kind of like a football weirdo almost, but like those are like the guys, like those are like those guys that you should be scared of being on the other sideline. Like that man looks like he eats, sleeps, lives, and breathes defense,
Yeah.
and credit to him because hone your craft and go dominate. I respect that. And that's why I think he fits in so well with A&M. And I'm not I'm weird, very weird myself. I don't mean it as a knock. I think that y'all are a really good match. He knows what Aggie Land's about. Obviously, he had his tenure there with Jimbo and had success and was obviously very willing to come down there with you guys. And so, I mean, I loved rooting for him at Duke, to be honest. As soon as he left, I was like, heck yeah, man. A&M lost Elko. Like, are you kidding me? Like, this is massive. Like, you got to be. I was ecstatic. And then I'm a North Carolina fan before a Duke guy in that rivalry, but I was rooting for Duke football the last couple of years because they play clean, hard nosed football. Riley Leonard was a gamer. Just an easy guy to root for, man. He really is, other than, like we mentioned earlier, what color he wears and what sideline he'll be standing on.
Right.
Now you go with Sark. I love a rebound story, man. I'm a sucker for it. I'm a flawed individual, made many mistakes in my life, still making mistakes today in my current life. And it's just, to hear him speak, and it's quite the opposite of Tom Herman. You hear someone talk and you immediately, you have a reaction to it. And, hey, I reside with that. I trust in what he's saying, or it's just sometimes you can see right through it. And with Tom Herman, in the beginning, you're so excited to have him. And I'm not going to dog Tom or Michelle, but it's just the further along that ship or that train we rode, it got gross, man. And
Yeah.
the more and more he talked, the less and less I listened. But now, as far as Sarkeesian goes, love the rebound story. I think it's very sincere and genuine, knowing that he's at Alabama and he goes through the heart issue, and it took him so much to even get a job, and then he finally gets a job with Coach Saban, and then goes to the Falcons, comes back, but like he finally has a job, and then he has like a major issue like that. I mean, the man has to go have heart surgery, and it's just like, yeah, he's my guy. He wears burnt orange and represents the Longhorns, and I love him just for that. But I fall in love with his story, and it's really cool and shows perseverance and strength. And I think that's a man that is going to be a great leader and teacher of our guys at UT. And so none of us are perfect, and all the jokes on Twitter and stuff like that, that's one of the only things that truly does bother me in all of Twitter. I mean, I've had some
Yeah.
wild things said to me, and I don't care much. And the only reason it bothers me is because he slipped the script, and it's pretty crystal clear. I think that he's a different person now and a different man, and he's just so confident in telling his story. And so I just have a mad ton of respect for Sark, and I'd run through a wall for him real quick.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I forgot all about the heart issue. I'd forgotten about that entirely. So, yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty remarkable, to make that kind of comeback, and what he's doing at Texas. Definitely comes off as a likable guy. So I've got a buddy of mine named Ralph. He's probably the only Longhorn that listens to this show on a consistent basis. But we go back and forth, in a very respectful way. But we're talking the other day after I got done with one of my shows, and we're like, hey, it's kind of cool that we have, Texas has this offensive mastermind. Now A&M has this defensive wizard type of guy. It's kind of like yin and yang, and honestly, those guys kind of like personified their universities a little bit,
yeah.
And I think that's cool to see those matchups play out over the next couple of years, or hopefully several years.
Absolutely, man. I think a lot of people, when y'all got when you signed your bigger, the number one recruiting class when you did, Texas was signing Kelvin Banks at the time and a huge offensive line class. I think people were posting gifs and memes of our offensive line and y'all's defensive line, and it's finally going to happen, man. And it's going to be power on power that night, and you're going to have to play some really physical big boy football to win there. And Mike Elko and Coach Sark wouldn't have it any other way, man.
Yeah, no doubt. And I know there's been times in this rivalry in the past where it's been heavily favored on one side or the other. It feels like right now that both teams are in a pretty good spot, and you know, like obviously Texas coming off of a great year definitely has things rolling. Elko has got a lot of good pieces here to get off to a fast start, but I think you look up here in the next 5 years, like both these teams in this game are going to be very important on a national stage, as well as to each other. Like this is going to be some good, like barn burner type football games being played on Thanksgiving, and with some big implications. So it's a very exciting proposition, an exciting time to be a fan of either of these teams.
Absolutely. I had Vern Funquist on the show last night. What an excellent guest he was, and he made the comment that Texas is done being 5-7 forever. There's no more 5-7 that is outside of the realm of possibility for us, because not because of Coach Sark, not because of Ricky Williams or Cedric Benson or Vince Young or all the players that played there, all the greats, but because of NIL. And the NIL. God, are you still there, buddy?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, so what happened here? Oh, there you go. Lost you. Sorry. Daughter called. But I think that the NIL era is super huge for Texas. And while I am very quick and happy to give Coach Sark credit for our rebound and our return, NIL definitely played a hand. You're talking about the transfer portal as well playing a hand. And so in this time and era with our two schools and having the transfer portal right there, as well as NIL to help us out in recruiting, I think that to make your point, these games are going to have big time implications over the next 5-10 years. I mean Texas wants to win again. A&M wants to win probably now as much as ever. I feel like y'all are as motivated as ever. You're in a mega power conference. You've got your blood rival back inside, in the house, and you want to kick him back out. I mean, it's going to be crazy, man. For all the people that missed this game for 12 years, 13 years, whatever it's been, and you were too young to really know what was going on, you are going to be wowed, because it is going to be a scene every year. 7
What
and
do you?
5 tech. Go ahead.
Like even in years where A&M wasn't that great, like the year that the Texas won the title, and the year they played for it, their toughest games came against A&M. And I think
Absolutely.
they beat us by 11. The year they won it all. I remember watching the one in 2009, where like Zach Kyle Field, A&M, and Gerard Johnson, freshman, Kristen Michael, Jeff Fuller. It's kind of a back and forth, and then the Olympic sprinter Marquise Goodwin just takes a kickback, and that's kind of all she wrote after that. But it was a hell of a game. It didn't matter what the records were in that game.
Yeah, that's literally what I was about to say, man. I don't remember what your record was that year, but in 2009, I know you got hot at the end of the year and y'all kind of rattled off a bunch of wins. But yeah, I mean, I was at both games. I mean, 2005 was, Dennis Franchione, and I know y'all, you hate the guy, and y'all a lot of talk about old Coach Fran, but he did some crazy stuff in that game where he scrapped his entire offense when Reggie McNeil couldn't play. Went with Stephen McGee, started running triple option on every play, and I was like, this guy is awesome. I love this cat. I mean, think about how cool that would have been for A&M to pull off that win and beat Vince
Yeah.
Young in 2005 Texas at Kyle Field, keep them out of the Natty with a team that I think won 6, maybe 7 games. But then, yeah, 2009 was one of the cool. That was the best that I've seen Kyle Field, and I was not there when y'all beat Alabama, and that was also right before you renovated. But
Mm-hmm.
I've been to Kyle Field probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 times since you've renovated, and I still say that 2009 Texas at Texas A&M was the best Aggie environment that I've ever been to. That game was absolute craziness, and Jeff Fuller was a madman. 3 touchdowns, over 100 yards. Gerard Johnson obviously played great, but yeah, that was a crazy one, man, because we'd go score relatively easy, and then we'd have some negative plays against y'all, and then it would be like Gerard for 55 yards to Wachaku or Jeff Fuller or something. It's just
Yeah,
like, golly, we're almost out of it. We almost got the ball back, and then boom.
yeah,
But good times and a great rivalry, and we're all blessed to have it back.
yeah, for sure. So, well, I know you got your own show coming up pretty quick, but definitely appreciate you coming on and talking some ball. Real quick before we let you get out of here,
You're good,
I
man.
know, I know you're a big golfer. You got the Blue Jack hat on right now. In the
That's
New
straight though.
Braunfels, in the New Braunfels Austin area, like what's your favorite course to play at?
Um, New Braunfels, Austin area.
Or
So
San Antonio, I guess.
if I could say, because that man, just so I'd probably say there's some really cool ones, man. And if you're talking about public courses that we can all get out to and we can all go play, I've been fortunate enough to play a few of the privates, not a ton of them though. But I really like Canyon Springs down just south of New Braunfels, kind of northwest San Antonio. It's a really cool track out there. It's really pretty. But just on the first tee box, you hit your tee shot, you walking down the cart path on your left side, you got three beautiful giant Texas Longhorns right there hanging out. I mean, they could stab you real quick if you got close to if you got one step off the cart path, you're probably in range of a couple horns. But I love that place, man. You start doing this, we'll talk for 2.5 hours on golf courses. You got to be careful here.
No doubt. No, I married into a golf family, so no, I've got the bug, and it's no, I understand completely. But
Well, we'll
um,
get out there.
yeah, for sure. Um, well, yeah, like this was a great conversation. It's 10 days out from both of our season openers. I know you guys got Colorado A&M coming up. I don't, have you seen
It's
those?
Colorado State.
Have you seen their uniforms? They're doing
Uh-uh.
throwbacks for the
No way. I have
for
not seen that.
like it says Colorado A&M on the jerseys. And I think
I have
they
not
used to be
seen that.
called the Aggies as well. So
Okay. I know a lot
they'll
of the
get
state schools where like Oklahoma State was the Aggies. I mean, like,
yeah.
I guess everyone did that. But no, man,
It's
I had
like
a blast. No, go. I was gonna say, had a blast. Thank you very much. The season's definitely coming, but go right ahead.
yeah, it's got like I think their uniforms are like a green and orange. Like it's pretty cool look. I'm sure you guys will still wax them, but it should be a good a good game to watch. Either way. So
Yeah, we'll see
um,
how much Sark shows in week one with Michigan looming. It might be a little closer than that 35-point spread I think Vegas has on it right now. But
hey, there we go. A little a pick of the week right there for next week.
hey, we'll see, man. You never know. I will be doing a segment related to that on the show here soon. So you're welcome to come on anytime and talk all that nonsense if you would like to, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to.
Abs-
You can follow him at 40 Acre Vibes on Twitter. And then is your show just called? Is it Ghost and Friends? Is that the official name?
it's Ghost, and then the Anthrosan, yes, sir, friends, Ghost and Friends.
All right.
Appreciate it very much. Any support is awesome, guys. I will say this. Couple of Aggies out there, sidelines, Texas A&M, Aggie Report. Those gentlemen and I have agreed to a hamburger eating contest on my channel as soon as I hit 300 subscribers. I think we're just north of 100 right now, but they have agreed to do that. So for you Aggies out there that want to watch a sip and a couple of Aggies go at it in a hamburger challenge, y'all get on the channel, show some love, okay?
There you go. There he is. All right. Appreciate it, Cord. Best of luck, this season and with the show and everything. And we'll talk soon.
Absolutely will. Thank you very much. Hook 'em, guys.
All right. Take care.